Friends, this is Module B. The first and foremost chapter under Module B is Regulation of Rural Financial Services. Friends, these rural financial institutions are having very much importance. So, these rural financial institutions are under multi-agency approach. They are commercial banks, regional rural banks, cooperative credit institutions, small finance banks, and from all these institutions, government for all these institutions, government and Reserve Bank of India, they are extending their support. They are extending their support for financing various activities in the rural areas, including agriculture. So while RBI is providing guidance to these institutions for their efficient functioning. All of us are aware that NABARD is there to give support for agriculture and rural development, and CAIIB, it is also providing refinance to the rural the people who are living in the rural areas. So both of them are providing refinance facilities for the development of agriculture, for the development of agriculture and rural development by NABARD, and for other activities, these rural development activities by CAIIB. So role of RBI in rural credit. Friends, here we are having section 17, under section 17 of the RBI Act. It is providing refinance for the SAO activities. SAO means seasonal agricultural operations. Please remember this. And marketing of crops also. The broad functions. Why? Because this SAO loans will be given for the crop loans. Crop loans, production credit. It is otherwise called as production credit. SAO means seasonal agricultural operations. Seasonal agricultural operations means there will be two seasons for the agriculture. One is Kharif, another is Rabi. So for these two seasons, banks will provide the agricultural loans. So Reserve Bank of India has issued several circulars on this SAO. So this is one of the most important programs of the Reserve Bank of India. The broad functions of the Agricultural Credit Department. So earlier we were having Agricultural Credit Department in Reserve Bank of India. So to maintain an expert staff to study all questions of agricultural credit and will be available for consultation by central government, state cooperative they used to give advices to the central government, state governments, state cooperative banks, and other banking organizations. So in that department, experts were there in the earlier days. Next one is to coordinate the operations of the bank in connection with the agricultural credits and relations with the state cooperative banks and any other banks and organizations engaged in the business of the agricultural credit. So they used to coordinate the operations of the bank in connection with the agricultural credit. Okay, friends. So please remember the functions of the ACD. ACD means Agricultural Credit Department. So it was there in the beginning. This Agricultural Credit Department was there in the Reserve Bank of India. So it used to give expert advice to central government, state cooperative banks, and other banking organizations. So next second function is it used to coordinate the operations of the bank in connection with the agricultural credit and related matters. So Afterwards, integrated scheme of the rural credit. The All India Rural Credit Survey Committee 1954 made several recommendations known as integrated scheme of rural credit. It observed that only 3% of agriculture credit was supplied by cooperatives and the rest by the money lenders. Actually, this All India Rural Credit Survey Committee, it has uh, it has given a report on integrated scheme of rural credit. So in that they have pointed out that only 3% of the agricultural credit was supplied by the cooperatives and the rest of the 97% of the people are going to the money lenders in the villages. So RBI decided to provide finance to the state governments for contribution to the share capital of the cooperative credit institutions at various levels. Then Reserve Bank of India has come forward and decided to give share capital support to the cooperative credit institutions. Next one is finance to the cooperative credit structure to meet the requirement of the short term, medium term, and long term finance. So, Reserve Bank of India then started providing refinance to the cooperatives to provide this short term agricultural loans, medium term agricultural loans, and long term agricultural loans. So, all this refinance activity was taken up by the Reserve Bank of India basing on the All India Rural Credit Survey Committee recommendation. Next one is they asked the state governments to provide share capital to the cooperative credit institutions. Okay, friends. So next one is setting up of the State Bank of India. Uh, Actually, if we go to this history, this State Bank of India was earlier it was Imperial Bank. So Imperial Bank has been the name was rechanged as State Bank of India, and it was nationalized in the year 1955. So the Rural Credit Survey Committee recommended creation of SBA as a very crucial part of integrated scheme of rural credit. So next one is the proposal bank was to provide remittance facilities for cooperatives and other banks and the responsive to the need for the cooperatives connected with the credit. The central government adopted the recommendations of the survey committee. Thus, Imperial Bank of India was converted into SBA in July 1955. The RBI was the major shareholder in the State Bank of India on its formation. Please remember all these points, friends. So, actually, Imperial Bank of India has been converted into State Bank of India in July 1955. So, in 1955 itself, that bank was nationalized. So, Reserve Bank of India is the major shareholder of State Bank of India at the time of formation. So, further in 1982, Reserve Bank of India has not Reserve Bank of India, Government of India has established NABARD in 1982. So RBI established two national funds. One is the National Agricultural Credit, that is a long-term operations fund, and the National Agricultural Credit Stabilization Fund in 1956. So the NESC means National Agricultural Credit, LTO funds had an initial contribution of 10 crores. The fund was to be utilized for grant of long-term loans to state governments for the purpose of their subscribing directly or indirectly to the share capital of the cooperative credit institutions. So in the earlier slide, we have discussed that basing on this All India Rural Credit Survey Committee report, state governments were asked by Reserve Bank of India to provide share capital assistance to the cooperatives. So state governments they were not having money to provide share capital to the banks. Then Reserve Bank of India it has created one fund with 10 crore rupees with 10 crore rupees. That fund is called National Agricultural Credit Long Term Operations fund. So from that fund, government will be provided loans. Government will be provided loans to provide share capital assistance to the cooperatives. Okay, friends. So this is the link. It's a very big chain. Please try to remember this. Next one is to grant of medium term loans to state cooperative banks and through them to central cooperative banks or societies for 15 months to 5 years. So with regard to medium term loans, so that is for 15 months to 5 years, medium term loans are being sanctioned to the state cooperative banks. Next one is for loans to state development bank for a period not exceeding 20 years by way of direct loans and by purchase of debentures floated by them. Here we are having two streams. One is state cooperative banks, another stream is land development banks. So state cooperative banks, they used to provide short-term agricultural finance. Short-term means seasonal agricultural operations, SAO. So these land development banks, they used to provide long-term loans to the farming community. In Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, when the state was as a unified state, N.T. Ramarao was the chief minister. So he has merged these land development banks and state cooperative banks. So that is the single window system. So except in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, in the rest of the country, these two institutions are working separately. State cooperative bank system is there, land development bank system is also there. So there, land development banks, they finance this land development activities, long-term finance, this purchase of tractor, this minor irrigation, etc. State cooperative banks provide production credit for raising crops and all these things. So the NESC Stabilization Fund was to be utilized for converting short-term loans into the medium-term loans. This facility would be available to state governments, to state cooperative banks to provide relief farmers when they are not in a position to repay their dues in time of owing to drought, famine, and other natural calamities. Friends, one purpose is there, that is medium-term loans, conversion loans. So farmer will be provided seasonal agricultural loan, seasonal SAO, for seasonal agricultural operations, the farmer will be provided a loan. So if there is any drought, famine, or any such other natural calamities, so that loan will be converted into medium term loan, and medium term loan, and we will fix the installments. So again further some amount, another SAO account, SAO loan will also be, SAO means seasonal agricultural operations loan, will also be provided to the farmer. So that is called as follow finance. So for conversion of loans, banks, especially state cooperative banks, can make avail the funds that are available under NESC Stabilization Fund. We are having two funds. Initial of 10 crores. This fund was utilized 1 minute. Here it is there. This National Agricultural Stabilization Fund. Sorry, this National Agricultural Credit Stabilization Fund. From this fund, they will make use the money under this fund. Okay, friends. So this is this thing. Next one is Agricultural Refinance and Development Corporation. This is ARDC. So ACD was there, and Agricultural Refinance and Development Corporation. This is also there with the Reserve Bank of India. We were having. Please remember these 2 points, friends. This is the history of the Reserve Bank of India. Prior to forming this NABARD, Reserve Bank of India was having 2 departments. One is this ACD. ACD means Agricultural Credit Department. We have seen this. Agricultural Credit Department. So next one is Agricultural Refinance and Development Corporation. So RBI established this Agricultural Refinance Corporation in 1963 as its associate institution. Subsequently, it was renamed as Agricultural Refinance and Development Corporation (ARDC) to facilitate carrying development activities by the corporation. So this ARDC and ACD. Please remember this, friends. ARDC and ACD. The ARDC, until its merger with NABARD, had been refinancing the land development banks, commercial banks, state cooperative banks, and regional development banks for various schemes for agriculture and related activities as well as other diversified purposes. So this ARDC, which was the one of the department, which was one of the departments of the Reserve Bank of India, it used to provide refinance for the land development banks, commercial banks, state cooperative banks, regional rural banks. For what purpose? For various schemes under agriculture and allied activities. Next one is setting up of REC, SFDA, MFL. So this friends, here on the basis of the recommendations of the All India Rural Credit Review Committee, 1969, Rural Electrification Corporation, REC, Rural Electrification Corporation, please remember this full form of REC, Rural Electrification Corporation. It was set up in the month of July 1969 to finance rural electrification schemes. Why? Because electricity is one of the infrastructure items. So next one is and Small Farmers Development Agency, SFDA. Next one is Marginal Farmers Agricultural Laborers Project, MFAL. Please remember the full forms of this REC, SFDA, MFAL. All these institutions were set up to deal with the problems of small farmers, agricultural laborers, and to ensure availability of the agricultural inputs, services, and credit. So, they have institutionalized the development of the rural areas. So, in that aspect, first of all, we should have money for the development. So, Reserve Bank of India has set up two departments. One is ACD, Agricultural Credit Department, and another is ARDC, Agricultural Refinance and Development Corporation. So, next one is REC. REC means Rural Electrification Corporation was set up, and this Small Farmers Development Agency, Marginal Farmers and Agricultural Laborers Project, MFAL. So, all these projects have come into existence. Next one is RBI and cooperatives. RBI played an important role in expansion of the rural credit by the cooperative sector till the formation of NABARD. Friends, here in 1969, banks were nationalized. So till 1969, commercial banks do not have any branch in the rural areas. Very, very, very rare, very sporadic. So they have not entered into the villages. So they used to have their business only in the big towns, big cities, towns like that. So they never entered into the rural areas. So after nationalization of banks in 1969, then only they have entered into the rural areas. So till such time, only cooperatives were there to serve the rural people. So Reserve Bank of India, so in the absence of commercial banks in the rural areas, so Reserve Bank of India is obviously it has to go to cooperative banks. Okay, so RBI played an important role in expansion of the rural credit by cooperative sector till formation of NABARD. So NABARD was formed in the year 1982. So by 1982, second batch of nationalization was also over. Second batch of nationalization 1980. First batch of nationalization in 1969. So after second batch of nationalization, NABARD has come into existence. Next to provision of refinance. So Reserve Bank of India used to provide refinance to the cooperative banks or commercial banks. Promotional activities including advisory role. So Reserve Bank of India used to promote several schemes in the rural areas, and Reserve Bank of India used to give advices. So regulatory functions. Reserve Bank of India is the regulator. So as the regulator, it used to act as regulator. Next one is Reserve Bank of India and commercial banks. The major efforts of RBI were introduction of the concept of priority sector lending, 1967, and lead bank scheme, 1969. After nationalization, banks have nationalized in the year 1969. So then this lead bank scheme has come into existence. So next one is issue of guidelines for the indirect financing of agriculture by commercial banks through PACs. PACs means Primary Agricultural Credit Societies in 1970. So, calling upon the banks to adopt an area approach for preparation and implementation of the agricultural development schemes for ensuring effective supervision over the end of credit by the ultimate beneficiaries. Friends, in the earlier days, utilization concept was there. Whenever a loan is sanctioned by the banks, so the officers of the bank will go. Officers of the bank used to go to the particular project and they used to verify the end use of the funds. Next one is setting up of the Credit Guarantee Corporation, 1971, now known as Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation. Initially, it was Credit Guarantee Corporation only. So afterwards, it was renamed as Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation. Next one is this differential rate of interest scheme, DRI, 1972. Next one is advising banks to adopt simplified forms and to liberalize the security and margin money requirements. So for the development of the rural areas, Reserve Bank of India has taken a very key role. It played a very key role. Next one is Reserve Bank of India and regional rural banks. The objective of the RRB is to provide credit facilities to the rural poor, namely the small and marginal farmers, agricultural laborers, rural artisans, small entrepreneurs. So after formation of NABARD, RBI functions relating to RBI were transferred to NABARD. Presently, NABARD looks after the promotional and refinance work besides supervision and inspection of the RRBs. Friends, here please remember this point. NABARD is the supervising authority for regional rural banks and cooperative banks, district cooperative central banks and state cooperative banks. So NABARD provides reference to the RRBs and this RRBs and cooperative banks, these state cooperative banks and DCCBs. So this is the refinancing agency. Okay, friends. So they won't go to RBI. So normally NABARD, they approach the NABARD. So NABARD provides refinance and NABARD is the supervising authority. So this is statutory inspection. Normally NABARD conducts the statutory inspection of the cooperative banks and regional rural banks. So role and functions of the NABARD, very important, friends. Actually, this NABARD was established on the recommendations of Committee to Review Arrangements for Institutional Credit for Agriculture and Rural Development, that is CAIIB. So it was headed by Mr. Sivaraman Committee. It is otherwise called as Sivaraman Committee. Based on his recommendations, this NABARD has come into existence. So NABARD means National Bank for Agriculture. NABARD is interested about the, so they should promote institutional development. Next one is evaluating, monitoring, and inspecting the client banks. Client banks here means regional rural banks and state cooperative banks. NABARD Infrastructure Development Assistance, NADA. NADA was designed by NABARD to fund projects for agricultural infrastructure, rural connectivity, renewable energy, power transmission, drinking water, and sanitation. Friends, all these are the infrastructure problems. So, agricultural infrastructure for rural connectivity. Rural connectivity is also infrastructure issue. Next, renewable energy, power transmission, drinking water, sanitation, and other social and commercial infrastructure by offering flexible long-term loans to the state government and state-owned corporations. Please remember this point, friends. So NABARD is having a infrastructure development assistance fund. So from this fund, state government and state-owned corporations will be provided loans. So these so the main area of concern is are agricultural infrastructure, rural connectivity, renewable energy, power transmission, drinking water, sanitation. So and other social and commercial infrastructure. Next one is Promotion and development progress, climate change program initiatives. As a national implementing entity for three important funding arrangements, namely Adaptation Fund, National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change, and Green Climate Fund. NABARD have been aiming under the program to channelize national, international, and private firms towards adaptation, migration, interventions in the country. Please remember these three schemes, friends, because this climate change program initiatives, this adaptation fund, national adaptation fund for climate change and green climate fund. So please remember this. Next one is natural resources management, integrated water management scheme. So sustainable tribal livelihood program under the tribal development fund. NABARD has set up a tribal development fund with initial corpus of 50 crores and utilized the fund for implementing various programs for sustainable livelihood for the tribal families. Next to Sustainable Sugarcane Initiative (SSI), Better Cotton Initiatives (BSI) with the drip irrigation, integrated biogas, ecotourism, sustainable agricultural practices like that. NABARD role is really it's a very lengthy role, friends, for the rural development in the rural development activities. Next one is microfinance initiatives. This SHG concept is of NABARD. So NABARD has initiated a program to promote self-help groups with a view to linking rural with the banks for saving and credit to meet their families' needs and improve their livelihood. Next one is financial inclusion inventions, financial inclusion fund. So this financial inclusion fund is also there with the NABARD. So with a view to supporting developmental and promotional activities, including creation of financial inclusion infrastructure across the country. Next one is why, because this financial inclusion is the topmost subject for the central government today. So keeping that point in view, it has created a fund, that is financial inclusion fund. So what is the objective of this fund? Supporting developmental and promotional activities, including creation of financial inclusion infrastructure across the country. So institutional development functions of NABARD. NABARD provide policy, financial as well as technical support to rural credit cooperatives as a part of the institutional development efforts. So they provide the technical support. Technical support means for computerization of these cooperative banks, cooperative societies. NABARD will get the funds from the central government and it provides the technical support for the retail sector in the cooperative this credit cooperatives. Next one is financial support is provided through cooperative development fund, while technical capacity building and knowledge sharing. Support comes from the training establishments of the cooperatives under the Center for this Professional Excellency in Cooperatives, Lucknow, CPEC. Normally, the NABARD is having a very big training college, that is BIRD, Bankers Institute for Rural Development. So they impart the knowledge there. At the same time, they have established another training institute, that is CPEC. CPEC means the Center for Professional Excellency in Cooperatives. Next one is NABARD initiated project on core banking solutions. CVS, I already told you this technical support is being provided to the banks, cooperative banks. So that is the CBS. So the next one is NABARD has also rolled out a pilot scheme on implementation of the fraud risk management software in 8 rural cooperative banks selected on the basis of their level of adoption of technology and financial health by providing grant support to these banks from out of the cooperative development fund. So normally when NABARD is having a fund which is called as cooperative development fund. So from that fund, it uh, it gives financial assistance to the cooperative banks for societies, this is district cooperative central banks and state cooperative banks. So they have provided the software for implementation of the fraud risk management. Fraud risk management. Okay, friends. So it was piloted in the 8 rural cooperative banks.